Good morning. Sorry for the slightly late start. This is VirtualPBX admin trade. And let me check my audio here. All right, so if you're a vConsole customer, we're no longer doing the live trainings. So for any, we actually have recorded trainings for that. That's just under our support pages for vConsole. So if you go to virtualpbx.com, mouse over support, then you're going to want to, when you mouse over support, choose vConsole support, and you'll see the videos there, and you can follow along with those. Likewise for Dash, we do have recording trainings on our site as well as on our YouTube channel, so if you have to leave early, for example, you can always go back and find them and go through all the features. All right, so on your screen, you should be seeing our Dash login page, which is dash.virtualpbx.com. To log in, you need your username, which is your email address, or the email address your admin created used for you. Your password, which if you've just signed up was auto-generated. If someone else created your user for you, they would have created the password for you. In either case, you hopefully got an email with that information. And then lastly, you have the account name, which is typically your business name. The account name is case sensitive, as is the email address. So typically, or by default, the email address should be in all lowercase letters. Occasionally, we have a customer whose browser will put the first letter capitalized automatically. And then I recommend for most customers just click Remember Me, so that way they don't have to keep typing everything in. But you also have forgot password or forgot your info if you ever forget. So we'll go ahead and get signed in. All right, so here we're on our dashboard page. Basically gives you a snapshot of your account. However, if you've just signed up, you'll see something more like this show up. Now, this is just your account information. So you have user account. This is a test account, so it doesn't have quite everything. So on your accounts, you'll also have a separate section down here that has like your billing information. So invoices, the ability to change your credit card information, that sort of thing. But here you can, change the email address and password if you need to. The most common thing people change here though is the time zone, just to make sure they're in the correct time zone. Also, when you first log in, the Dash wizard pops up to tell you what these things are. Once you're done with that, click the close button, appears at the top right, and then you'll be back in the dashboard. All right, to the left, we have your navigation through the major Dash features. Basically, these are things that you are most likely going to want to set up to get your account up and running and usable. Along the top, you've got your account with your name, so you can click on your account information. That little help icon here, so you can get the support via the chat. You can get the web store. If you have a web phone added to your user, you can click on the web phone link, and you can also get to the support pages directly. And then up here, we have the hamburger icon or the menu icon, 3 horizontal lines, so you can navigate through other aspects of your Dash account. Right, so we're on the dashboard here, but you can get to all these other features as an admin. Your standard users, so your non-admins, they'll have access to the user portal for sure. If you have queues, they'll have queues available to them as well. And that's pretty much it. And then you have an icon to log out. So on the dashboard itself, we have total users. So these are the people on your account. They're making and receiving calls. Depending on your plan, having more users may increase your bill. So that's something to be aware of. Down below that, you've got your total devices. So these are the things your staff use to make and receive calls. In some cases, it's only to receive calls. And then they're broken down. Right? So we've got a soft phone, which is a software application, usually on a computer, but these days can also be on a cell phone or a tablet. And that basically uses that program to make and receive calls using your internet connection. Web phone is actually a subtype of soft phone, right? So it's a particular kind of soft phone. For us, it makes use of Chrome or Firefox on your laptop or desktop computer to make and receive calls. All right. Cell phone, pretty self-explanatory. SIP phone is a type of a VoIP phone, right? So voice over IP, that's what VoIP stands for. Physical phone sits on your desk. You connect it to your network to get on the internet. You're making and receiving calls through it. Landline, typical landline. Just so you know, generally speaking, we can send calls to a cell phone or a landline, but if you're going to make an outbound call, you can't do that easily from a landline, especially cell phone. You could do so if you add a soft phone. Then you use the soft phone app to make the outbound call. Right. Unregistered devices. These are VoIP phones or soft phones that aren't connected. Right. So our system says, hey, we're not seeing a good connection here. We can't send calls to them. That's unregistered. Down below, we have total numbers. These are phone numbers on the account. Now, these are inbound phone numbers, right? So phone numbers your customers are calling to get to your system. Now, depending on your plan has an allotment of phone numbers as a part of your plan, anywhere from 1 to, I think, 15. I might be wrong on that, on the high end there. But once you go over that allotment, then by default, it's $4.99 per phone number per month. So in this case, I'm definitely over my allotment, so I'll be being charged extra for all these extra phone numbers. Then we have a breakdown, assigned numbers versus spare numbers. So an assigned number is a number in use, right? It's one of my main numbers. It's going to one of my users or one of my ring groups or a queue or what have you. A spare number is a number on my account, but I'm not using it. I'm still being charged for it since I'm over my allotment, but I'm basically holding that number in a reserve, right? It's for a future advertising campaign that I have planned for, say, Labor Day. That sort of thing. I just don't want to lose that number or worry about getting a number, right beforehand. I'm like, I already have it, so I don't deal with it later. The other breakdown in this case is USDID versus US toll-free, right? So toll-free, 800 number, 888, etc., down to 833 currently. USDID means just a U.S. local number, right? So a number in New York versus a number in Chicago, right? That sort of thing. You can have international numbers on your account. If you don't already have one, meaning you don't need to port it to us, that you just want to gain a new number, you would need to email our porting team, which is porting@virtualpbx.com. We need to know the city and country that you want that number to be in. If there are additional requirements, we will let you know. It varies from country to country. Like some country, like Germany, requires proof of presence, usually like a utility bill, in that same city that you're requesting a number in, before they will release a number to it. Down here, conference bridges. That's 5. That means I have 5 users I have enabled conferencing. Over here to the right, we've got your main numbers. So these 3 numbers all behave the same way. They have the same greeting. They have the same routing. Conference numbers, again, both, I have 2 numbers here. They just go into the conferencing, and then they'll be prompted to enter a PIN, conference room number, and then probably a PIN number typically. Your fax box number, this is so you can receive faxes. This is like your general fax box for the company. And you can only have the one number here. Company directory users, you can download this, so basically you can have an extension list for your staff. Store discount code, basically just for being a Dash customer, you get a discount on anything you buy in our web store. So like if you need to get some VoIP phones, you can use that. And then you have your account realm. You need that for a couple things. One, if you're programming a third-party application, so like Xlite from Counterpath, for example, or a third-party VoIP phone that's not auto-provisionable. And then the other thing is for outbound faxing. So for outbound faxing, that's simply you create an email. In your email client in the to field, you put +1 area code and phone number of the number you're faxing to, the @ symbol, and then your account realm. And then you would simply attach a PDF or a TIFF and send that off. Okay, up here at the top, we've got caller ID. So you choose one of your main numbers, and normally you have a drop down here, but my streaming software doesn't always show all the drop downs. And then you've got the company caller ID names. So this is for when you make an outbound call from, say, your VoIP phone. You can have text show up on the caller ID to let whoever you're calling know you're not like a robo-dialer or a telemarketer. You can have up to 15 characters. That includes spaces or special characters. This is an industry standard. Once you click Save Changes there at the bottom, we transmit this information to the other carriers who support CNAME. It takes and that update takes about 3 business days for all the different carriers to get updated. So then when we route calls, as long as it goes through a carrier that supports CNAME, the CNAME information will get transmitted to your destination. Now, unfortunately, not every carrier supports CNAME, so when the call goes out, it might go through one of those carriers that doesn't support it, so then your destination person doesn't see the CNAME information. Another couple things to keep in mind, even for the carriers who do support CNAME, it's not a high priority. So if they have heavier than expected call volume, say during election time in certain areas, for example, the CNAME information may not go through, right? Because their primary concern is connecting the call followed by the caller ID. And then trailing way behind that is the CNAME information. Right down below that, we have your E911 information. This is the account default, so your company headquarters. And so this is when a staff member picks up a VoIP phone and calls 911. This is a default address that gets sent to emergency services. So you want to make sure that's correct. And you can also set this up for the different devices. So when you have remote staff, they can have their own address show up. And then you click on Save Changes. All right, hold music. So hold music on Dash. You can upload your own file. It needs to be either a .wav or .mp3. We do recommend that you record in mono, not in stereo, and you keep the file size under 1 megabyte. Now, 1 megabyte MP3 is roughly 5 minutes. So hold on Dash. This is after a caller has reached someone or one of your staff members, right? So call comes in, blah, 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 gets to Mary. Mary picks up. She's talking to the customer, realizes she needs to put the customer on hold. She presses hold on her VoIP phone. And this is the file that will play by default. All right, so then we go to hours, which is part of the main numbers section. All right, so by default, all new accounts, they start off at 24-hour open office, meaning, hey, your system's ready to receive call. Most customers choose custom office hours. And then for each day of the week you're open, you put a check mark in front of it. And then in the boxes to the right, you enter your open hours. This is in 24-hour or military time. You can also, at the bottom here, choose if your whole facility is closed for lunch, you can put a check mark there and then enter your lunch hours. That way the system will automatically put you in lunch mode at that time. If you're closed for holidays, put a check mark up here at the top. And then to add a holiday, click over here, and you've got the option here for single day, date range, and advanced. Single day, pretty self-explanatory. It's like what we have here for President's Day. So you give it a name, then you choose the date, and then you'll click Save Changes, right? Date range, that's like what we have here for Christmas. Again, you choose the start date and the end date, and click Save Changes. And advanced is like this retreat here, where I'm just saying, hey, the first Friday in July, we're on holiday. Now, one thing to keep in mind, there's no date or year indicator on any of these. So for the date range, you want to avoid using a date range that includes New Year's Eve and New Year's Day, since you can't include the years for those two. The system basically just puts you in closed mode for the whole year. So for New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, we say just use single days, and then anything else you can use date range. All right, now we get to the meat and potatoes here. This is your incoming call handling. So this is how your main numbers are handling the calls that come into it. Now, you've got tabs here for open hours, lunch hours, after hours, and holiday. Now, if you're not closed for holidays, for example, you wouldn't have a holiday tab. Likewise, if your whole facility isn't closed for lunch, right, you didn't put that check mark there, you wouldn't have a lunch tab. But all these sub-tabs have the same options down here. So first option, call comes in, goes to the virtual receptionist. This is a link that you can click on, and it pops up in the window. So this is essentially, call comes in, you have a greeting play. That greeting should give instructions to your caller in terms of what to press. And then over here on the left is what they press on their phone. Where does that go, right? So how to navigate through your system. You click Add Route, so you can click a new option. And then you basically have 0 through 9 from the pull downs. And then over here, you choose where you want it to go. So you've got like a ring group, so like a department or a receptionist group, a sales group, etc. I have a long list because this is, again, a test account that gets a lot of use. So you can go to the smart directory so people can try to find the person they're looking for. You can send it to a specific user. Let's go down here. You can send it to a call queue, right, ACD queues. Now, call queues have a fee associated with them. So they're basically an upgrade for any account. You can send it to a specific device. Scroll down. You can send it to a media file, right? So basically have a greeting play. The downside of a media file, or having a menu option go to a media file, is that once the media file ends, the call ends. And if you can get around that, although that requires custom work, and that may require a fee. And then you have groups, and you can also go to a specific voicemail box. Right. Now these little icons kind of tell you ahead of time. So like this has got 3 little people, so I know it's going to a group. Right. This has got the voicemail icon. So I know it's going to voicemail. This looks like it's going to a media file. Usually there's a little note icon there. Single person. And then let's go to little headset is for call queues. Over here, you've got your greeting types. So text-to-speech, you type it in, you click update, and it's basically ready to go. You can upload your own file, .wav, .mp3, recorded in mono to 1 megabyte. You can choose from a recording already on the system. If you record it over the phone, the system is assuming, or by default, is associated with a VoIP phone on the account. If you don't already have a main greeting in place, then when you call in, you'll enter in the PIN number, the system just guides you through it. If you already have a greeting in place, we'll call that greeting A. So when you call in, that greeting A plays. You can enter the PIN number. The system will then prompt you to record. That new recording replaces the content that was on greeting A. Right? So your default greeting that's playing is greeting A, it just has new content of what you just recorded. If you want to record using a cell phone or landline, you do need to send a request to our support team, support@virtualpbx.com, and it needs to come from an admin or billing contact saying that you want the ability to record from an outside line. Our support team will enable that for you, and then they will ask you to let us know when you're done, so then we'll put the flag back in place, so that way some random person doesn't try to call in from whatever phone and try to hit the PIN number to change your greeting. Professional recording services. So we've partnered with another company called Snap Recording. When you click order, they'll take you to their site. They have like 100 voice actors to choose from, both male and female. They have different versions of English available, different versions of Spanish, and different versions of French. So you can obviously have a multilingual greeting if you wanted. They have packages, so you can have music and a script play, right? Hold treatment, I think that's what they call it. They have their own pricing. You would basically pay them with a credit card, most people do. So they bill directly, then they send you the file, and then you simply upload it. All right. And lastly, we've got the settings, number of retries on misdial. Basically, this is saying customer is calling in and they hit an invalid entry, right? So they hit, say, 6. On here, that's not a valid entry. System replays the greeting again. If they hit 6 again, on this system, right, it's going to say, okay, they've had 2 misdials. I'm going to send it to this default option or default action, which is going to this voicemail box. Now, in general, we recommend not having a default action. So that way, if robodialers hit your account on your main numbers, they have the number of mistries, so they hear the greeting play a couple times, and then the call is disconnected. Right? So by not having a default action, basically it's a filter. So a person will listen to your greeting and hit a menu option or an extension that they know to get to who they need to speak to. Robodialer doesn't know what to do; they'll just sit there forever, or until your last greeting plays, and then the call gets disconnected. Right? With a default action in play, robodialer will hang out here, eventually hits the default action, so then either gets to your staff member or leaves a voicemail, just taking its time. Now, if you make any changes, whether it's on the menu or the greeting, you have to click Save here, and then again, save changes on the incoming call handling. That way, and if you don't do both of those, your changes aren't saved. All right, next option, call comes in. We're offering it to Bob. Bob's not able to answer. It goes to the same virtual receptionist because we're under open hours overall. You have options, right? You can send it to different users. You can send it to a queue, and most commonly is people send it to a group. Right? They have the option for devices, and send it to a media file, and then send it to a group. So basically, what this is you're giving a staff member or staff members an opportunity to answer the call first. They are not able to, then the inbound caller goes to virtual receptionist, so then they can hit a menu option or extension number. All right, option 3 here, call comes in. Again, you can offer to a user, a group, a device, etc. They're not able to answer, then call goes to a particular voicemail box. You also have one other option up here where you can just scroll down to the bottom, right? And you can say, just send them right to voicemail. So no greeting, don't try to ring anybody, just boom, send them to a voicemail box. And again, save changes. Now, one thing to keep in mind, all these other tabs, the virtual receptionist is different for each tab. So you can set up different routing, you can have a different greeting, etc. If you need to change the greeting, like you want to record it over the phone, you need to make sure that the system is in the particular mode. So I'm in after hours. If I want to record my after hours greeting over the phone, I need to make sure my system is already in after hours. Then I can call in and use this PIN number, which is different than my daytime PIN. All right, down here we've got your conference numbers. So you can, and under main numbers, for example, as well, you can add numbers from your spare number list directly to a section, or you can also just buy numbers. And then add them directly to, basically you click add, and then you click buy. It'll activate the numbers and add it to the section you're in. You can have a greeting on your conference number, however, it's just a text-to-speech. Your main fax box number, you're allowed one number. When you click Edit Fax Box, it'll pop open a window with two fields. This account, the fax box, is not working properly because it's, again, a test account. But the two fields, the first field is for an email address. That's the email address that's going to receive the faxes. The second box is for outbound faxing, or who you're giving permissions to. So you can put a particular email address. So you your particular staff member, they're the fax person. They send out all faxes. You can just put their email address there and not worry about it. Or if you have a domain, right? So you have abccleaners.com. Everyone in your company has an email address that ends in abccleaners.com. You can add that domain in that second field. So then anyone with an email address with that domain can send a fax out. They don't have to be a user on the account. And again, that's just create an email, +1 area code and phone number, @ the account realm, attach a PDF or TIFF. All right, now we got your numbers. These are all your numbers in use and where they're going. You can click on the little gear icon next to any number and adjust the caller ID, the E911. Prepend is a VoIP phone feature, so you can add additional text in front of the caller ID to let staff know what the call is about. And then spare numbers, and you can see your numbers that you're not using, so you can use them for whatever you want to do. Again, you can have the option here to buy a number. 7833. All right, and you would just click add, buy, and then there it is. Now, anywhere where you can have a phone number ring into, so like on a user, the groups, etc., it's like the conferencing that I was showing you earlier, you can, when you add a number, you can add it directly to that particular place versus adding it in the spare numbers. Port is an industry term basically saying, I want to move a phone number from my account at AT&T, for example, to my account on VirtualPBX. And you would start a port request and follow the forms. Basically, what we need is a filled out letter of agency, LOA. Now that the LOA is going to ask for like your company information. That company information should be the information that your current carrier of the number has. So what AT&T has on file for your company. So like if with VirtualPBX, your ABC cleaners, but with AT&T, your XYZ cleaners, on the LOA, XYZ cleaners should be the company name on the LOA. Likewise, the address they have on file, and then whoever signs for it. That signature does need to be a signature. It can be a digital signature. It just can't be typed out or printed out. And then we typically also need a copy of the recent bill for that phone number. You can, so through the port process up here, you can actually submit those documents directly. just wants it in a PDF, and you can upload. It also has a blank LOA you can download from the port process. But when you submit it through this port process here, that gets submitted to our porting team, and they'll handle it. Basically, they'll let you know, yes, we got it, we're processing it, and then they'll email you any updates. If for whatever reasons you don't want to go through the port process on Dash, you can just email a completed LOA and a copy of your bill to porting@virtualpbx.com. They'll still accept it, they'll still process it. All right, users, these are all the users on the account. Adding a user is up here at the top. Again, you put in the name. You put the email address they use to log in. This must be unique for each person. You create a password. By default, it's going to create a voicemail box for that particular person. Up to you if you want to include in the user directory or not. Send emails to an alternate address. This is in addition to this email address that they use to log in. And then the other thing I say you want to make sure it's checked is this bottom one. Send credentials to the users, right? Again, so they have the information to log in with. And if you're only adding one, you could create user. If you're adding multiple, create user and add another. Then you notice here, some people are little gray icons, and then there's people with a little blue suit. So a blue suit icon is an admin, whereas the little gray person is just a user. You can click on the person's name. You can change their name. You can also change their passwords or their email address. If you have a user who just forgot their password, right here, if you click on that here, it's a link. It will send a password reset to that person. Here's where you can add a voicemail box PIN number if you want to. If your users are using VoIP phones, you don't have to create a PIN number for them. Just when you get their phones added, they can pick up the handset, hit *98 on their VoIP phone. That goes directly into the voicemail box that's associated with that VoIP phone. And then the system will prompt them to create a PIN number and record their greeting. Here's your option to include in the directory or not. Up here is a pull down so you can change someone from a user to an admin, or vice versa. If you're the only admin, please don't make yourself a user unless you have another admin on the account. Here you have the time zone, the language, English, French, Russian, and I think they recently added German. Ringing timeout measured in seconds. This is the default amount of time for offering a call to this person. The default is typically 20 seconds, which is fine for a VoIP phone, or for most VoIP phones, as well as for landlines. If you have a person who only is taking calls with cell phones, then you probably want to up it to 45 seconds, just to give more, because it takes more time to route a call to a cell phone. And then their main extension number. Users can have multiple extensions. So like our VP of sales, every now and then he has multiple extensions going, because when a salesperson leaves, he takes over their extension, so he can get any of the voicemails and send those on to other salespeople over here, or reach out to them himself, so we're not missing any business. All right, users can have their own phone numbers. And so I can add from spare, or I can buy directly here. And then devices. Actually, so you can have many devices on a user. If you want to add a new device, all right, so SIP phone, all right, so that's that physical VoIP phone sits on your desk. You look for these manufacturers. These are the manufacturers that support auto provisioning. However, we don't provide auto provisioning for every device that they make. So when you click on one, you'll see the available list. Now, it's possible you'll have a device that's like 1 digit off, right? So say there's a T47, which might or may or may not exist. you could try to use either T46 or 248 and see if that will work. But once you select the model, the system will then ask you to enter the MAC address of the phone, which is a sticker on the back of the phone, and give it a name. Now, as far as on the dashboard, once you click create device and then save changes on the user, you're done. You need to go into that phone's web UI, and we have instructions on support section of virtualpbx.com. It's going to ask you to enter a URL. And basically what it does is it tells the phone, hey, connect to this URL. Phone connects. That page asks for the MAC address of that phone, sends that over, says, oh, I know what you are. Here's your config file. Sends that file to the computer, or to the phone, excuse me. The phone will reboot, usually a couple times. But if everything works out fine, then the phone will show up on the account. It'll be green, letting you know it's connected, and you can make and receive calls, as well as make use of most of the built-in features of that phone. Right, cell phone and landline are basically the same. You give it a name, and then you put the number, right? +1, area code and phone number, and then you click create device, and then you would click save changes. And now I'm going to click on a cell phone here. All right, so by default, this is the setup of a cell phone or landline that's added to the account. So when Dash offers a call to cell phone or landline, right, the phone rings, you pick it up, you will hear, this is a forwarded call, please press 1. So when you press 1, you're telling the system, yes, you're there, and yes, you want to connect to this call. And the system will connect the call. Now, that doesn't work for everyone or every situation. For example, if you're actually sending calls to an automated answering service, right? So generally speaking, those automated answering service can't press 1. So what you would want to do, put a check mark here, allow use of cell phone's voicemail. On landlines, it would be allow use of landline voicemail. And what that does is you don't have to press 1 to accept the call. Right? So basically, we send the call to that phone number. It picks up. We hear that pickup tone. We connect the call. Now, if you're actually sending it to a cell phone, for example, then what happens is if your cell phone voicemail picks up, we still let the call connect, and the person leaves voicemail on your cell phone's voicemail. Some people love it. Some people hate it. The other thing that comes into play here is keep original caller ID is by default checked. What that means is when a call comes through Dash and gets to my cell phone, it's going to show the person's phone number that's calling me. Now, if I uncheck this, what happens instead is I see the VirtualPBX number that they dialed, right? So my main number on the account will show up as a caller ID. So that's a way to let me know, oh, this is a work call. It's not some random telemarketer calling me. All right, soft phone. There's a warning here basically saying, hey, you're going to be moving around. Make sure your E91 is at the right spot. When you close that, give it a device name. And so right now, this is set up as use a third-party application. So you're using Xlink from Counterpath, or you're having a physical phone that didn't show up in that SIP phone list. So you would use this information to program that application or device. So the SIP username, the SIP password, and then the route. You do not want to change the SIP password or the SIP username in general. That will typically break things on our side. Now, if you want to use the VirtualPBX softphone application, then you click down here, and that switches it to use VirtualPBX application. You give it a device name, say create device, and save changes. When you click on save changes, what the system is going to do is send an email to this person saying, hey, you have a new soft phone, here's your login information. And then they can download the app to, say, their Android or iPhone. If you wish to use the desktop version of the app, so for Mac OS or Windows, there is a license fee for that. It's listed, I believe, at $39.99 in the web store. So you would need to pay that first, and then we can create the credentials for you. And then I guess switch down to web phone. So web phone, you always want to add on the user page. You give it a device name. You click create device. You click save changes. So the web phone, to log into that, you go to webphone.virtualpbx.net. It has a login information. It's the same login information as your user information here to get into Dash, right? So same email address, same password, same account realm. And then you're making use of Chrome or Firefox to make and receive calls. Next up, we got user features. Caller ID number, this only applies to your users who have their own phone number. So basically you click it on to enable it, and then they're gonna, when they make an outbound call, the caller ID that shows up is their phone number versus the main company number. Call forwarding, basically this is to say, hey, I'm not gonna be at my normal phone, forward calls to this other phone. This other phone should not be a device on the account in general, but specifically not on this user. And then you have a couple options. So off means, hey, I'm not using call forwarding, right? On means, hey, I know I'm not going to be around, or I'm going to be in and out. Just send it to, in this case, a mobile phone. And then failover mode is for your VoIP phone users. Basically, it's saying, hey, my VoIP, your desktop VoIP phone disconnected for whatever reasons. The system detects that automatically, and so any call that comes to your user is instead automatically sent to your forwarding device. Now, call forwarding, off or on anyway, can be done by your users. They can do it from their VoIP phones using feature codes. They can also do this through the user portal. So it's not something you have to set up for them every time. Hot desking is also a VoIP phone feature. You can set up a hot desk ID. This is an instance where you're in a shared office environment where you may be sitting at a different desk from day to day. Right? So today's Tuesday, I walked in, I sat at desk 7. I get, the computer booted up, I log in, I go to my phone, I pick up the handset, I hit *11. That's telling the system I'm enabling hot desking. It'll ask me for that hot desk ID. And then calls that come to my user get sent to that phone that I'm sitting in. At the end of my day, I pick up the handset, I hit *12 to turn off hot desking, go home. So tomorrow rolls around, I come into the office, someone's already sitting at desk number 7. I'm like, bummer. Oh, but there's desk 22. I'll sit there. Again, pick up the phone, hit *11, enter my hot desk ID. I'm getting calls at that phone. My voicemail box basically says, hey, you're a user, you have a voicemail. Fax box, you can set up users to have their own inbound faxing. You can either select a number or you can set up an extension. I recommend making use of a phone number, but if you use an extension, basically what that means is someone has to call into the main number, listen to the greeting, enter in the extension they're faxing to, and then have the fax start. I'm old enough that when I fax something, I usually just go to a fax machine, enter the phone number, hit send fax, and I walk away to go do whatever else, and I check back like in 10, 15 minutes. Also, I don't know how well email to fax services handle sending it to a number with an extension. So I say normally just select the phone number, and then that phone number people want to send fax to, and it goes to this specific user only. Conference bridge, basically you're saying, hey, this person can host a conference. These are the phone numbers involved. This is their conference room number, and that's their PIN number. And obviously you can create that. Follow me is if you have multiple devices. So in this case, when a call comes into me, it's ringing all of my devices, and my default here is 120 seconds. I can also choose to click distribute here, so then it rings each device for 30 seconds. I can also say, hey, wait a minute, I'm typically going to respond in this way, right? Because I don't normally use Vapor, for example. And I can even choose, hey, do not ring, don't even bother. If I click distribute again, it adjusts them. But basically, this allows you to do blast ringing, so all your devices at once, or staggering. These are sliders, so you can adjust it how you see fit. And just click save change. Music on hold. Users can have their own hold music, although only an admin can enable it and upload a file for them. Again, .wav, .mp3, 1 megabyte mono. Customized call recording. So let me disable this first. All right. So when I first enable it, when you click enable and click save changes, you actually haven't done anything because the default on all the accounts is set to off. So now you've got these 4 types of calls. So inbound internal means coworker Bob called me. He and I chatted about whatever. Right? Inbound external means our customer called me, and we talked hopefully about business. Outbound internal means I called Bob back, and then outbound external means I called a customer back. So most of the times, what we see is something like this. Basically, hey, they're concerned about the external calls the most. But you can also have all 4. Or just say, hey, I only ever really care any combination. But once you decide which ones are on, so it needs to be enabled, and then you need to turn on at least one of these, then you click on Save Changes, and so now you're recording those kinds of calls. All right, let's go up to Groups. So Groups is short for Ring Groups, basically department. You click Add a Group, you give it a name, you give an extension number, and then you click and drag everyone you want to be in that group. And then you click on Create Group. Once the group's created, you can click on the name. You can always change the name. And then you have dialing repeats. Basically, this is how many times an inbound caller could ring through to the members of the group. In this case, I have it set to 2. But you got these little arrows here to the right, and you can adjust your number of rings through there. You can also delete a group. If you click on the members box, you can see that, hey, these are all the people in the group. I got a total ring time here, 240. By default, it's actually 120. So you can always change that. Again, just like under the follow me before, you can drag people around to adjust the order. And again, you can do sliders, so you can have everyone ring the whole time if you wanted to. You can even remove people if you need to. The one thing you would want to avoid is something like that, where there's a gap. Because basically it means it won't actually get to these next people. So you just want to do that, so that way there's at least matching, if not overlapping. All right, extensions. Again, this is what people, other staff members use to transfer calls to this group. Then groups can have their own phone numbers, and they can have multiple. And then you've got group features. All right, so ringback is essentially a file you can have play while the inbound caller is waiting for one of your staff members to pick up. You want to make sure this file is the same duration as your total ring time in your group, because the system will not automatically loop it. And .wave.mp3 recorded in mono under 1 megabyte. Next action, basically, what do you want the system to do if no one picks up? Right, so you click to enable it. In this case, I am sending the people to Bob's voicemail box, but you can set it to a particular device. You can also have it go back to the main menu, or even go to a different group. Allow call forward basically allows your users to send calls to their forwarding devices. And then caller ID prepend, this is a VoIP phone feature because it's prepend. So basically you can add either text or numbers in front of the caller ID that shows up on their phone. And this is helpful to your staff who are in multiple groups to know what the inbound caller is probably calling about. All right, devices, all the devices on the account. Green means it's connected as far as system is aware. Red means it's not connected, not registered. Black means it's disabled, right? You can change that, and then it'll turn either red or green depending on its status. Probably red. And this is a test account. You can add devices here. However, if you're going to add a VirtualPBX soft phone or the web phone, again, I recommend doing that on the user pages specifically. But anything else you can add here without a problem. Voicemail boxes, you can see the voicemail boxes on the account. You can add additional voicemail boxes, for example, if you're going to use for your ring groups. You basically give it a name, a voicemail box number, and a PIN number, and click create device, or create new voicemail, excuse me. And then you can click on the little wrench icon. You can always change this information. Under advanced, this is where you can handle uploading a media file to record, or so it has a greeting. Recipients, you would add a recipient, so so if this box gets a voicemail box, someone gets notified / gets the voicemail itself. Once you have those things done, under options, you got a couple things. One, you would want to click on already set up, so the system knows that it's ready to go. And then the other one that you might want to do is this one here, just delete after notification. So every voicemail box can hold up to 100 messages. After that, if someone tries to leave a voicemail, they get that message saying the mailbox is full, please try again later. Since your staff is already getting an email with the voicemail, then you can have delete after notification, so that way it doesn't get to 100 ever, and they have the voicemails in their email. All right, greetings. This is your greetings manager, so all the files you've uploaded. You've got the name, the type. You can download them, so that way you can listen to them, make sure they're still relevant. If you click on the wrench icon, you can change the name or delete them. Call log shows your call activity in and out of the system. Right, green arrow to the right means it's inbound. Yellow arrow to the left is outbound. You should be able to click on a call to get some further details, basically see what kind of legs was going on. You can click on the little gear to get more technical. Now, typically speaking, most calls you want to see that they end in normal clearing. If you see something different, usually means there's like a network issue going on with a VoIP phone, for example, or basically something unusual happened. And you can send the technical details to support at virtualpbx.com, and we can see what's going on. More than likely, we'll make some test calls. Feature codes. I've mentioned a couple of these in the course of this training, but basically from a VoIP phone, typically, this allows you to make use of some features from the phone itself. These feature codes are also posted on the virtualpbx.com site under support specifically. So you can always just go to the web page and look at them versus logging in. All right, so now that take this down through on the left here. We're going to go over here and go to ACD Queues Pro. Now, there's two products. There's ACD Queues and then there's ACD Queues Pro, right? So Pro is the upgraded version. I believe we are now offering them. I might be wrong. You might want to talk to our sales team to find out for sure. The standard ACD queues range from, I believe, $15 a month per queue to $30 per month per queue. It's going to depend somewhat on the plan. I'm not quite sure what the ACD queues Pro pricing is. I do apologize. They've changed it on me at least a couple of times. So you might want to double check with sales. All right. So you've got a queue. And I'm just going to go here to the edit the queue. So basically, this is as if you're creating a queue. So your basic info, you give it a name, you give it either an extension number or a phone number. All right. Now, caller limit. So you can limit the number of calls that are in the queue. If you put 0, that means there's no limit. Queue timeout measured in seconds, basically how much time they can wait on hold. And then timeout immediately if empty. That means if you have no staff members logged in, just treat any call that comes in as timed out. Now, the 0 out call flow, basically if you click on this, what you're doing is you're enabling the inbound caller or the person waiting on hold to press 0 on their phone. If they do that, where are you sending them? So you can send it to, in this case, like specific devices. I usually say you're probably sending it to a voicemail box. Because that's what most people are used to doing is, hey, I'm pressing 0 because I don't want to wait on hold. So I'll just send it to this voicemail box. Display agent status to other agents. Basically, it lets your agents see who's on a call, who's not, etc. And then record all calls. Right, so if you want to do call recording for the queues. Escalation handling. Basically, if the timeout happens, or if there's no agents, you can either send it to a second queue, or you can send it to, again, typically a voicemail box. So you got users, etc. I'll send it to the main voicemail box. All right, then we got your routing strategy. So this is how queues are different from ring groups, right? Because you've got most idle, who's been waiting for the longest. You've got the least number of calls handled, meaning least number of connected calls. Least offers, so who's had the least amount of calls offered to them. And round robin, which is basically equal out over time. The skills ones down here, I don't think they're enabled yet. At least they weren't as of last. Hold treatment. So on Queues Pro, you can basically just have a media file. On on standard queues, you can just have a media file. On Queues Pro, you can have things like announce position, announce the expected wait time. You can have multiple media files. Agent behavior, agent connection, basically how much time we offering it to an agent. You can force away on rejected or missed, meaning if an agent misses a call, then the system will put them away mode, and then the agent will have to mark themselves as ready again. Allow recovery time, basically after a call ends, the agent can have, if you allow this, then you need to measure it in seconds of how much time they are allowed before they're offered a call from the queue again. And then you can also allow extensions. On the standard ACD queues, you're not allowed extensions at all. Okay, member assignment, basically you're assigning particular members into a queue. And then you've got the review and confirm. You can print this out. So in case you want to try different things, you can say, okay, we'll print this out. You can make your notes on it, try the changes, make notes, etc. See what works. If we go down here to the little person with the headset, this is your member management. You can manage members. You can add your general users into the queue. Basically, you click on them, and then you click on Add Members, and then move them over. Once they're in the queue list, you can then add them to any queue by clicking on the queue and then members, manage members, and then you can add them into the queue. This one just simply doesn't have the people logged in yet. You also have activity logs, so you can see all the different status changes people do. Right, you can see the calls in the queue. One thing that Pro has over Standard is this performance option here. Basically, you can pick particular agents, and you can add row to add another agent, so you can compare agents to each other. Up here is where agents set their status, right? Mark as ready, end their session, or be away. This little phone icon allows them to choose which phone to ring on. Now, by default, for both Qs and Qs Pro, you can only send calls to a VoIP device. Go to Blacklist. Blacklist, you click on Edit. This allows you to create a block list. Right? So basically, you're saying, hey, this one phone number keeps calling us. They're annoying my staff. They're a waste of time. You get the phone number. You would click Add Number here. You put +1 area code and phone number. You would click Add. Then you click Save. You go back to Settings. And then you make sure it's on the Selected section. Once it's in Selected, you click Update. And now those phone numbers, when they try to call your phone numbers, they hear a busy tone. Right, as an admin, you can get to any fax box on the account. So you can see what's going on with their faxes. You can check the outbound faxes and the email to fax logs, which will tell you why the faxes failed. And basically, this goes back about 30 days. Likewise, for voicemails, as an admin, you can get to any voicemail box on the account, see what messages they have, etc. Now, if you have users set up to delete after notifications, you're not going to see anything here because there won't be any voicemails to look at. But any voicemail box that doesn't have delete after notifications, you'll be able to see the messages. You'll be able to play them back or delete them, etc. Monitor, as an admin, you can see what the staff is doing. It will show up here shortly. So green means they're just waiting for a call. Blue means they're on an inbound call. Red means they've marked themselves away. Yellow is they're on wrap-up time from a queue. And there's a gold color means they're on an external call, in either outbound or like a transfer. The recording manager gets you to your call recordings. It's hosted by AWS. Reports are still in beta. You don't actually have access to it on this account. User portal. This is something every one of your staff has access to. When they log in, they can get their voicemail. Again, if they delete after notification, there won't be anything here. They can review their call history. They can see faxes if they've had any. The contact list is just within the account. You're not going to be able to add your own personal contacts. This is basically so you can get to people's extensions, you can get to the various ring groups, etc. Conference, this is where your staff would manage their own conferences. So here's the moderator pin versus the participant pin. Not sure why the settings here are a little offset. Anyway, up here at the top, you can invite other staff members or other people on the account into your conference. You can lock a conference. You can mute everybody. You can unmute everybody. You can end the conference. When you're in an actual conference, like on a participant, you can mute a specific participant or kick a particular participant as well. And then under settings and devices, they can set up their own call forwarding, and they can see the status of their devices. And that is it. I'll go back to the dashboard. I'll wait a few minutes in case anyone has any questions via chat. But beyond that, I thank you for your time today, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Dashboard. But beyond that, I thank you for your time today, and I hope you have a wonderful day. All right, I guess there aren't any questions, so I'm going to go ahead and end the stream. Again, I thank you for your time today, and I hope you have a wonderful day.